Hello everybody. The fights are starting over the Apple tax now. It's going to be a huge election issue in the next number of months about the spending of the 14 billion euro that the European Court of Justice decided that should be paid to Ireland. Now, we did a video yesterday on it and you can look at the detail in that video yesterday, but today I want to give just an update about the political backlash around this and also the hypocrisy from the political establishment, and also a couple of more facets that's happened the last few days regarding Paschal Donohoe, the Minister for Public Expenditure and head of the Eurogroup, a yes man for the European elites. Now, it's interesting because some of the political establishment have been coming out, and the government parties have been coming out to say, who have spent millions of our public money fighting against this money being brought back to Ireland, they have said that no, we can't spend it and it's not for current spending. And this has come from Micheál Martin. It has come from people like Noel Collins of Fianna Fáil as well. Coincidentally, of course, Fianna Fáil, the party of the Galway tent, pretty adept at doing backroom shady deals with people in Ireland, and now the same as what they're doing with Apple and all the big global corporations. And they would suggest pay down some of our national debt and also put it into a sovereign wealth fund, which is a rainy day fund that are trying to put money forward to future-proof our economy. And not to mention the current disasters we have in Ireland that we're all too familiar with our homeless disaster, housing, the health chaos, education, and the cost of living disaster, and many more issues facing ordinary people who are struggling to have enough to pay their rents and keep food on the table, not to mention pay the extortionate energy bills as well. And this all comes in the back of the Stability Treaty that was signed a number of years ago and passed. The ones that when they were pushing the jobs for people, and of course people went along with the narrative and they signed up to it, which opened the door to this fiscal compact where you can't have a deficit of over 3% of your GDP. So they can't spend beyond these limits, and this is why they're saying it's not used for current expenditure. But there is a loophole. But of course they won't tell you about the loophole. I have to declare an emergency on housing or homelessness. Then they can use it. But of course they won't, because they're wedded to the neoliberal market every single time. And this ties into Pascal Donohoe, who's the head of the Eurogroup and Minister for Public Expenditure. Over the last week he was in London giving a speech to the City of London Corporation. Most notably, that's they have their own powers in the City of London. It goes back centuries. They've had, I think, about 700, I think it's actually 695 mayors at this stage. There's a guy by the name of Michael Maninelli, who's the current Lord Mayor, and he has decided, following the meeting they had last week and the speech that Donohoe gave, to give Pascal the freedom of the City of London. And this is in London. This is the City of London Corporation, and they have their own police force. They have their own autonomy as such. And again, who controls it? The big corporations and the billionaires. 75% of the votes in elections for the mayor of the City of London come from the big corporations, and of course it's a pretty exclusive club and pretty anti-democratic as well, because you have to go through a long process of being a free man and then an alderman before they can actually consider being looked upon as a possible mayor of the City of London. And of course, most notably, other people like Bill Gates have got the freedom of the City of London. So Pascal Donohoe is in good company, a yes man for WEF, yes man for the European Union. And he gave a speech a couple of weeks ago in London where he said it was about financing our future. And he said it was an inflection point among Western economies at the moment. Considering what's happening geopolitically, we see the war in Ukraine, we obviously see the war in the Middle East also as well, and of course he's trying to push this narrative for more war and bowing down to these free market neoliberal ideas that have been pushed and destroyed so many lives in the Western economies, most notably here domestically in Ireland, where we've been impacted by the huge crises because of the bank bailout many years ago and austerity that we're still feeling the fallout of today. And that's why they're grandstanding over the 14 billion euro, how to spend it, because they don't want to let down their European masters. Because they're more interested in serving the big corporations than ordinary people. And he also said it was a push towards market-based economies and working towards a capital markets union, because he said spending demands and pressures remain particularly high because of what's going on. And he said people don't want to be taxed more. Well, it's actually low pay workers and people on fixed incomes are the ones that actually percentage wise paid the most amount of tax, because VAT and because of low pay workers who are still on the famous USC as well. But again, he won't tell you that. And he also said they want to bring the debt and deficits down. Ties into what Martin's been saying about the Sovereign Wealth Fund, isn't it? Why would you give the people who fought not to take the money control over how to spend it? Isn't that the sign of lunacy, I think? And I'm sure Einstein said the same thing. The sign of madness is doing the same thing and expecting different results. But I'll leave you cast your own call or judgment on that as well. And again, he was pushing for the free movement of capital. Capital has no boundaries. We see the devastation that's caused in Ireland in terms of the vulture funds coming into Ireland, wreaking havoc on our housing misery of so many people. And he's pushing to take down more barriers as well. Because of course, wait for it, it's to pay for the digital transformation, pay for climate change and defence, and of course an ageing population. We have a declining birth rate here in Ireland, of course, because of the skyrocket in childcare bills and accommodation costs, but they won't tell you that. So the answer is to bring in cheap labour, and that's why we have an immigration chaos in Ireland. Of course, this ties into the whole narrative of the globalists that Pascal Donohoe was more interested in working towards, rather than the interests of ordinary people, and so much for the people being sovereign. Because where I am this evening is up in St Enda's, up in Rathfarnham, a beautiful spot in Dublin, South County Dublin, the foothills of the Dublin Mountains. And you can see this was the home to Patrick Pearse and his famous school that was up here in the Hermitage up in Rathfarnham for many, many years. Beautiful, idyllic spot. And of course, a number of weeks before the Easter Rising in 1916, Patrick Pearse wrote The Sovereign People, which he stated that the natural and material resources of the nation would be in the ownership of all the men and women of the nation equally. Now, how did that work out? Micheál Martin, sovereignty is a backward looking idea. And of course, Pearse also said that no class is entitled to privileges beyond any other class. Maybe say that to Pascal Donohoe and his banking elites he's sidling up to in London, rather than serving the interests of ordinary people. And not to mention, Patrick Pearse also spoke about freedom and nationhood as well, in terms of physical freedom. And you can see why this is such a beautiful and idyllic spot in Dublin, and why he found such inspiration from this area as well. Many people like George Russell, his own brother William Pearse, were here also as well, and spent time educating the young children that were brought here to escape the indoctrination of the murder machine that he saw the education system around that period of time, because of the imposition of it by the colonial oppressors. So it's also fascinating history, but something we can't forget, and it's vitally important that people keep talking about our history and what sovereignty really means, while they try and make us ashamed through indirectly and directly of the whole idea of nationality, because it is vitally important, and it's something you want to undermine by creating the free movement of capital, have people with no ties to their home, to their culture, to their history, which are vitally important in terms of our struggle, and that goes back through generations, through many of 1916, James Connolly and many more, Patrick Pearse, and goes back well beyond that to people like Robert Emmet and then Wolfe Tone, many more, who stood up for our independence and for the people to have control of our country. And this is vitally important now more than ever, in particular to what's happening and the whole narrative and language that's coming at us time and time again. And it's happening through the whole debate around social media also as well, with it trying to clamp down on disinformation and misinformation. So we have to be proud of our history for struggle, for ordinary working class people standing up for our rights. And that's how we got our rights. They weren't given to us, as I've reiterating again, by benevolent leaders. People have to stand up and speak out against what's going on, and especially when you see the growing and stark inequality in Irish society, when you see the amount of people in deprivation, the amount of people in poverty. But then again, you have a huge percentage of people in Ireland as well who are doing quite well out of this. And they want to see the status quo remain, and they would be quite happy to do whatever it takes to keep that status quo, property prices increasing, and a lot of people benefit from that. But again, with the vicissitudes of the market, we're wide open to a huge collapse again. But again, this is what they're trying to do towards eroding our sovereignty and eroding the whole idea of the sovereign people that Pearse spoke about, because democracy should start and end with the people. That's where it's vitally important that people use their voice, and whatever voice you have, use it to speak out what's going on and stand up for the interests of ordinary, hard-working people who are struggling, many struggling to get by day to day. So again, thanks for all the support. My videos, really appreciate them. And please press subscribe to my YouTube channel also as well. So from St Enda's up here in Mafarnham, take care. Slán. Bye bye.